It works! After hours of fiddling with my Blender animation and my Python script and my Gerbil settings, this thing is actually doing what I hoped it would do, and it's simulating all the animations in real life. Ugh. Oh man. It's so great not to have to worry about holding my hands really steady. I just program it in and let it go, and I get these really smooth Okay, so where we left off, I had a working board, but I was just sending dumb G-code to it. And that worked for some shots, but for other ones, it wasn't really cutting the mustard. I wanted to get more complicated. And honestly, it's a shame not to. This thing can do so much. It can move any axes at any speed at any time. Why not get super complicated and do all these cool animations? It's a waste of the machine to not do it. So the next step was generating a custom G-code file with all those fancy animations built in. And that brings us to Blender. So the first thing I had to do was actually make the animation. I opened a new Blender file and pretty much made a really rough representation of the machine, just a linear bar that the camera's moving across, a camera block, and then I also attached a camera object to it so I can kind of see what the camera's gonna see, which is so cool. And then there's a little animation tab at the top that lets you keyframe positions at different times. So I made a repeating animation loop that took up about 100 frames, and then I can just go in and manually drag exactly where I want each axis to be at certain points in the animation. And it's cool because this red line right here is the X movement. So you can see as I move along here, the camera is slowly moving along the X. This is it sliding along the rail. So if I drag this red line up here and then I play the animation, you can see now it goes super far forward. So I have total control of this. I can move any axes however I want. Cool. So let's say this is the wackadoo animation I want to send to the camera. Now, I need to figure out, how do I make G-code from this? So I thought this was actually going to be really difficult, but it ended up being pretty easy. All the hard work is done for me in Blender. Blender's doing all the interpolation of positions between my keyframes. So turning this into G-code ended up not being that hard. Now Blender's super cool because it also has this scripting tab in the top. So I wrote this really short Python script. It's 57 lines of code. So what it does is for every frame of the animation, it takes the position of the camera for the 3 axes that my machine can move, and it just writes it to a G-code file. And that's pretty much it. I had to do some funky stuff with turning the rig upside down for zipline mode. I have to like invert some stuff, but that was pretty easy too. And then it saves a file on my computer called animation.gcode. And there it is, that's my G-code file, custom made for my machine. Now Blender makes this so easy for me to do. They have all these beautiful endpoints in Python. I can just slurp up the position of all my objects in my scene, in my animation. So actually getting the coordinates of the camera was dead easy. And then it was just some formatting for G-code. Bada bing, bada boom. We're off to the races. So all I have to do is hit run script, and then I've got animation.gcode right here, and this is my G-code file. That's so cool. Like it just generates all the, that's just so wacky. Then I just have to send it to the board, and for that I use CNC.js. CNC.js is pretty much just a client for sending G-code over a USB port. So once I've got it open, I can find the serial port and connect, and then I just hit upload G-code file, animation, open, and there it is. Now, of course, it has no idea what it's supposed to look like, so I get all this wacky stuff, but it's thinking I'm like sending this to a normal 3-axis CNC, not this wacky thing, so of course it's gonna look weird. Now, the last thing is getting this machine to understand this G-code properly. My Python script writes stuff out in millimeters and degrees, so I have to set the E-steps for the machine so when it sees, oh, move 1 degree, it actually moves 1 degree. If you wanna see what I did to make that happen, there's a video here that explains it pretty darn well. And then it moves! Cool. Alright guys, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to check out my Instagram page where I post pictures and updates about my projects way before they come out on YouTube, and I'll see you next time. That is so cool.